Coming this week in the CS2 Weekly Recap. In market polls, the market cap is showing signs of a slowdown. False signal, dip incoming, or imminent crash, you'll be the judge of that. In case Crackdown, you'll see why this case made investors thousands of dollars over the course of 1 week, and why it's not too late to get in. In ROI Radar, you're not gonna believe the ROI on the Austin Legends capsule. Holy G! And more to come in this week's weekly recap. Welcome to Market Pulse, your weekly deep dive into the CS2 economy. Player count is up 2.2% with today's peak reaching 1.61 million players compared to the past 7 days, averaging 1.58 million. Market cap grinding to a halt with a tiny gain of 0.17%. Could this be the beginning of the mother of all crashes? I doubt it personally, but we'll be monitoring the situation very closely. In the meantime, the indexes will help us get a more clearer picture of the whole situation. The 301 index, aka the liquid index, did manage to post a gain this week. It lost value, just over 0.5% to be precise, which is indicative of a greater supply of highly traded items entering the market. Same story for the low tiers, supply pushed the total value of the index down, but barely, which may hint at the higher indexes doing badly. Let's see. And yeah, as you can see, it's the same story of supply pushing the price down for the mid tiers, except that this is the greatest loss of value we've seen in an index so far this week. A loss of 1.18%. Pretty minor in terms of absolute value, but somewhat high compared to the other indexes. For example, it's more than double the amount lost by the liquid index. The high tiers will be bringing home the L Cup of this week with a loss of 1.44% over the week, and it makes sense honestly when you take a look at how outrageously expensive gloves and Dopplers Phase 2 have gotten recently. Despite that, the market continues to try and crawl its way towards its previous all-time highs, only 4% away boys, we got this. The knives and gloves index show barely any movement this week, with the gloves remaining especially flat with a superficial loss of 0.05%. As for the extra cosmetics, if you remember last week, both the agents and charms managed to climb 3%. The agents managed to maintain the rate of growth this week, showing an increased demand overall across the whole market, but charms, on the other hand, while still gaining, couldn't keep up the pace and only grew by 1.6%. For the cases index, we can see an overall underwhelming performance from each index, though they remain in the green, so that's a little something. We can see the 2016 to 2019 index performing twice as good as the other two. The market pulse this week is locked in. As mentioned in the beginning, the unstoppable growth finally screeched to a halt now that the Austin Major has officially started. Did some people decide to sell in anticipation of the Major shaking the market? We're unsure yet, but keep an eye out on the rate at which the Austin 2025 stickers are being applied. Welcome to Case Crackdown, where we break down the happenings in the case market over the past week, and this week, just under 8.6 million cases were open, a pretty big decrease from the astronomical 9.4 million we saw last week. Of these 8 million, just over 50% were active cases, 34% were purchasable, 15% were rare, and only 0.67% were discontinued. The number one purchasable case was the fever case as usual, with 2.2 million cases open, which is a slight dip compared to its weekly average, and despite that, clearly players are still very hungry for it. The number one active case was the revolution case, showing just over 1 million unboxings this week, a pretty bad number compared not only to its weekly average, but also since last Friday. The number one rev drop was the snakebite case, which saw a massive spike in its unboxings number of just over 200%, making it a total of 181,000 cases opened. The most liquid case was the fracture case once again. It's the GOAT case, but there's not much else to say about it except nay. The case with the most potential this week was the snakebite case. This gives us a little bit more context on the whole situation. The increase of 200% in unboxing numbers seems to be correlated with an 11% increase in price, which strengthens the hypothesis that this spike is due to items within the case, specifically gloves, gaining in value rapidly. These cases are bought and opened rapidly. The crash out of the week was the fever case, which isn't an actual crash out, so just like the fracture case, we'll go to. And as for Dadscap's pick of the week, I've decided to go with the snakebite case. And yeah, I know, but listen, you can't stop me, okay? And also, I'm sorry, but it has too much potential to not be an immediate buy in your case portfolio if it's not already. The gloves from the Hydra and glove case will soon be too expensive for any normal person to own, and knowing how much CS2 investors love repeating hype cycles, the snakebite case is set to gain an obscene amount as soon as the recall case eventually enters the rare pool as well. If you're enjoying the recap and you're not subscribed, then I'm sorry to say, but you're literally a part of the 91.9%. Ouch. Join the 7.2% now and become a millionaire before 25. Thank you. Welcome to Winners and Losers. Starting off with the winning cases, we found the Breakout case in 3rd position with an 8.4% gain, the Prisma 2 case in 2nd at just under 10%, and the Snakebite case, as expected, topping them all at 11.69%. These numbers imply an increase in price for OG butterfly knives, new-gen Dopplers, and 3rd-gen gloves. For the losers, we find both the Gamma and Gamma 2 cases at the bottom, with both losing around 2.2% of their value, and the Fever case again being the biggest loser of the week with a drop of 5%. These imply OG Gamma Doppler knives losing value, and the up print stream continuing its downward spiral. Moving on to the play skins, the winners this week were the AK-47 Elite Muso from the Riptide collection with a more modest 7% compared to the previous weeks, the M41S Vaporwave from the Gallery case at 9.5%, and surprisingly at the top we find the AK-47 Searing Rage from the Fever case with a gain of 35%. For the losers, we find at the bottom of the chart the AK Frontside Misty from the Shadow collection down 5%, and two skins from the Ascent collection, the AK Midnight Laminate and the M41S Stratosphere, being the biggest losers with a combined loss of 10%. Moving on to knives, we find in the winners the Huntsman Autotronic from the Dreams and Nightmares case, gaining just under 5%, and two gut knives topping the chart, one of them being the Gut Knife Lore, which can be found in the Gamma and Gamma 2 cases, which is surprising considering these cases lost of value. In the losers, we can see that this was a pretty bad week for OG vanilla knives, with a flip knife losing almost 10%, but it's the Bayonet Vanilla that's taken the biggest hit with a loss of almost 20%. Ouch! This is such a severe loss, it might actually be a little oversold, so watch out for a correction. And for gloves, in the winners we found two gloves from the Snakebite case, the Broken Fang and Driver gloves, at the bottom with a combined gain of about 4.5%. The biggest winner though were the Hand Wraps Leather from the glove case, gaining just over 5%. Finally, in the losers, we can see an especially bad week for the gloves in the glove case, the Crimson Weave and Cool Mint, losing a combined 8% of their value. Welcome to ROI Radar, where we're looking for money printer hidden in the armory or the in-game store, starting off with the Enfu sticker capsule with an odds profit of 21%, an unboxing ROI of 83%, and an expected value of 82 cents, so 18 cents loss. The best item is the Chabo paper at $3.42. The second best capsule in the in-game store is the Austin Challengers capsule with an odds profit of 6%, an unboxing ROI of 91%, and an expected value of 90 cents, or 10 cents loss. The best item is the Falcons Gold at $167. Damn! And finally, the best capsule in the in-game store is the Austin Legends capsule with an odds profit of 8%, an unboxing ROI of 109%, and this is without Steam fees, by the way, that's for real ROI right there, and an expected value of $1.08, so an 8 cents gain. The best item is the Vitality Gold at $193. Moving on to the armory, the third best collection is the Sport and Field collection with an odds profit of 5%, an unboxing ROI of 92%, and an expected value of $1.48, so a 12 cents loss. The best item is the M41S Fade at $599. Next up is the Missing Link Charms with an odds profit of 15%, an unboxing ROI of 99%, and an expected value of $1.19, so 1 cent loss, so close. The best item is the Hot Howl at $55.59. And finally, the best collection in the armory is the Character Craft Stickers collection with an odds profit of 32%, an unboxing ROI of 116%, and an expected value of 46 gain, so a 6 cents gain. The best item is the Googly Eye at $15.70. Thank you for watching, we'll speak again very soon. Peace!